Welcome to JWL Sports, where we review all the best sports clips from around the country. We're watching a clip of The Herd with Colin Cowherd talking about Mike McCarthy is not going to be fired. I have some pretty strong thoughts on this one, as per usual, but let's see what Colin has to say, and let's go from there.
Feel necessary. He likes to feel needed. Bill Parcells didn't need him, and Jimmy Johnson didn't need him.
He's talking about Jerry Jones.
Okay, their legacies are set. Jason Garrett, Mike McCarthy, they need him, and Jerry likes that. It's like Dak Prescott. Jerry's like, I found him in the fourth round. And all Cowboy quarterbacks, Danny White, Roger Staubach at one time was the richest NFL player making his money out of football. Troy Aikman, Tony Romo, Dak Prescott, Cowboy quarterback, endorsements and wealth for life. And Jerry likes that. He feels part of it. He feels necessary. All these NFL owners and billionaires, they all have tendencies, and Jerry likes to feel important. That's why he still does that silly weekly radio hit and post-game presser. I do think Jerry's getting in his own way now. Now, I don't think you can just blame Mike McCarthy for all of this. Since McCarthy arrived with Dak Prescott, Dak rolls at home and against bad teams. He's 10-16 against playoff teams, home or away. Great quarterbacks.
See, this is what I've been telling you about Dak Prescott. He's 10-16, under 500 versus playoff teams. And that's just with Mike McCarthy. And he, against teams that missed the playoffs, 24-4. And not to mention a bunch of those wins against the playoff teams are against the Eagles, and especially this season. So, or the one game when they sat all of their starters because they had already locked everything up. So you could subtract two of those right there. But this is where Colin keeps kind of going back and forth with McCarthy. First, he said, this was the dumbest hire ever. What are you doing? Then he said, Mike McCarthy's pretty good, And then he said, Mike McCarthy's not it. He's not good enough. He wanted, the OC out of there. He lied about being in the basement with all the tape. And then he said, look at Mike McCarthy. Look how Aaron Rodgers actually played better with McCarthy than without. Maybe it wasn't McCarthy and maybe Aaron was the problem, building up McCarthy. And then he was saying, McCarthy's not that good of a coach. They need to move on from him. He needs to, even Greg Olsen was talking about what the heck is McCarthy doing. He's dated. He lied about, being this offensive guru. Move on from him. And now he's back to saying, McCarthy's actually not too bad. And actually, he's not fully to blame. Well, technically, you're not fully to blame. Obviously, it's never just one thing. But Colin cannot keep his head on straight with the Dallas Cowboys and Mike McCarthy. I mean, he's been consistent about Dak for the most part, calling him like a B plus quarterback. But McCarthy, he seems to just keep going back and forth. And I think the question lies here with regards to Dak and Mike McCarthy. They're both pretty good. And that's what makes it so difficult to figure out where you're at. Because if Dak was a better quarterback, would Mike McCarthy be able to win? And if Mike McCarthy was a better head coach, would Dak be able to get even better, right? And so it's hard when they're both pretty good. You just get pretty good results. That's what you get. You get 24-4 against terrible teams, 10-16 against good teams. You get no NFC Championship games, no Super Bowl appearances, and obviously no wins because you're a pretty good team, but when you play really good teams, you lose. That's what it gets boiled down to. And trying to figure out, is it the coach or is it the quarterback? When they're both pretty good and pretty decent, it becomes really difficult to figure out. Because if we knew Dak was elite and we were just like, what is Mike McCarthy doing? Then it's easy to fire him. If we knew Mike McCarthy was an amazing head coach and really succeeded and was really this powerhouse of a coach, and they just weren't playing good enough, you would say, all right, Dak. And that's kind of right. That's kind of what happened with Sean Payton, for instance. This is a perfect example. Right or wrong, Sean Payton has the aura of, I am an elite head coach. I've won with every quarterback, backup quarterbacks, quarterbacks who aren't even like actual quarterbacks. I did it. And so when he went to Denver and had Russell Wilson played bad, obviously, the last season. So that made people already question, is Russ really not that good of a quarterback? What's going on here? And then when Sean Payton and Russell Wilson didn't work out, people didn't question Sean Payton. They said, no. Russell Wilson is just not good enough of a quarterback and just doesn't have what it takes. And in fact, Sean Payton maximized what he could out of Russell Wilson. That's what the story was. That's what the narrative was. With this situation, it's kind of like a reverse Tom Brady, Bill Belichick situation, right? When they were winning, it was like, they're both so great and so elite. Who gets more responsibility for all these victories? For this situation, it's like they keep not, succeeding. Whose fault is this? Because they're not terrible. We know they're competent. Mike McCarthy's competent. He's not a disaster. But also, I don't know, how good is Mike McCarthy? And the problem is, and I had a conversation with someone in the comments about Mike McCarthy, is Mike McCarthy isn't cool. He's not hip. He's not young, and he's not fit. And I'm not disrespecting him. I'm not trying to judge him on his physical appearance, but the truth is that's how a lot of people are judged. Mike McCarthy is the type of guy who you think you would genuinely enjoy having a beer with, watching a football game with, hanging out. You trust him to babysit your kids, right? He's like a grandfather, right? You would trust your little your 2 5-year-olds to be like, here you go. You're going to be with, Grandpa McCarthy, he got you. And you can trust that he's going to show those kids like the most fun ever, right? So fun. And that's why he's kind of easy to kind of just crap on or use as a scapegoat. Then you have the more cool coaches who are very serious and kind of good looking and fit. And, they got pecs and buys and tries and they're like ready to go, right? That's Sean McVay. That's Kyle Shanahan. That's Matt LaFleur, right? These guys can be on like GQ, they're known as these geniuses and they're young and they're ready to go. And they're dating attractive women. They're like playboys to some degree, honestly, right? But like, I wouldn't trust Shanahan with my 10-year-old niece and my 8-year-old nephew, because I would be like, I don't know what he's gonna say. He's a kind of weird guy. He's gonna say he's the type of person where if she's crying over something, he would say, shut up and stop crying, time to grow up, right? McCarthy's the type is like, oh no, you fell, don't worry, I got you. Nothing fixes a boo-boo better than ice cream, right? And the problem is that's not football culture. So when things do go bad, you're like, McCarthy, he just doesn't have what it takes. He's not the alpha. And that's why Jerry loves him, because Jerry wants to be the alpha. Jerry wants to be the man, the guy at the top of the mountain. No one questions whether or not Shanahan is the alpha. No one questions whether or not Sean McVay is the alpha. And Andy Reid is that exception, because in terms of like the young, good looking thing, because he's just old at this point and his resume is over like years and years and years and years of experience. He's also won multiple Super Bowls. If Mike McCarthy won a couple Super Bowls, more than just the one Super Bowl, then he probably would have a better then he would probably have a little bit more respect. Or if he won with multiple quarterbacks like Andy Reid, right? Andy Reid won with like Donovan McNabb, Nick Foles, he won with Michael Vick, won obviously with Patrick Mahomes, Alex Smith. He's done things consistently that you just can't doubt that. With McCarthy, there's a lot of doubt. And I've already kind of given a lot of Dak rants, so I don't want to kind of keep doing that again and again and again. But to me, that is the problem that the Cowboys face, is that you have two pretty good guys and also two likable guys that you don't want to root against, right? People that you think, again, I truly believe that Mike McCarthy is probably a good guy. I'm not lying. Like, I would trust him to babysit my children, right? I would be like, I got full confidence that he's going to be like this awesome guy and be silly and fun and take them out for ice cream and have fun with them. I would trust him. Same thing with Dak. I would trust Dak is going to take the kids out, go swimming, have fun, throw footballs to them, and show them like the best time of their life. Then there's other people in the league, other coaches that I'm like, dude, I don't even want to sit in a car with you, let alone like trust you, with people that I care about, and it's a silly example, I know, but I do these two thought experiments with myself. Would I trust my kids with them? And I don't have kids, so I use my niece and nephew, but would I trust my kids with you? Right? That to me is anyone who's had interaction with kids, whether it's your kids or like close niece and nephew or, some other type of arrangement. you know how important that is. So when you say, I am trusting you with this person, with this little kid who you love more than you could ever imagine, there is a tremendous amount of trust. So I like that thought experiment, because it's like, where do I view you? And also, do I want to sit in a car with you? If me and you are driving, into the city, a 45-minute drive, can me and you just kind of kick back, talk, laugh, tell jokes, trade stories? Or is it kind of like, yeah, how about the election? I know, it's crazy. I wonder who's going to win this year. That's the vibe you get from like a Shanahan. That's the vibe you get from a McVay. That's the vibe you get from, Sean McDermott, right? It's not the vibe that you get from, say, some of these other coaches and these other players. That's why, the reason why I'm saying this is that it's harder to root against them. So because of that, they get multiple chances. People didn't want to root for Baker Mayfield. Right or wrong, they didn't want to root for him because he wasn't perceived as likable. Okay? So when there was problems, it was, well, let's just use, Baker Mayfield, get him out of here. He's the problem. Same thing with Carson Wentz. For whatever reason, Carson Wentz is a pretty good quarterback. He absolutely is. For whatever reason, they don't like him in the locker room. So when a team is not playing well or they're not doing good, it's Carson. Get him out of here. It's Carson. It's really easy just to pick and point at that person. Think about when you were growing up and you had friends. And what always happened? There was always that one guy that always got ragged on by everyone, right? He was always at the bottom of the totem pole. It's the same logic here with regards to that. There's just people that are likable who you want to keep giving chances, and there's other people that you just blame no matter what happens. It's Mike's fault. And so I think that's kind of what you get here. And it's competing with a culture of, say, like a football, because football is obviously men, alpha, energy, let's go, do or die. And think about it, that's not who Jerry Jones hires as their coaches. Romo was a really likable guy, still is, obviously. Dak Prescott, a really likable guy. He could have moved on from both those quarterbacks when they've proven not to be able to do enough, and he doesn't. And same thing with the coaches. I mean, think how much he gave Jason Garrett all that time, and it's like, what has he proven to do? And ask yourself, if you fire both those, Jason and Mike McCarthy, do they instantly get head coaching jobs somewhere else? No. They do not. I don't know who would necessarily hire them. Maybe a team that's completely drowning, like an Atlanta or something, or the Carolina Panthers, right? But those are disaster franchises right now. Shanahan, McVay, Andy Reid, those coaches, they would get hired in a second. You would fire your existing coach and say, we want him. Let's go. We want him. So that's why these guys end up as being as scapegoats. But I think, really what it really sums it up is since they're both pretty good, it just becomes really hard to evaluate, because you just don't know, why are you not getting to that next level? And are you just stuck here until one of you leaves? That's what it really comes down to. But let me know what you all think in the comments below. If you think what I'm saying is the most ridiculous thing ever, please let me know in the comments below. If you think what I'm saying is the most amazing thing, then also please let me know. Either way, let's get into some discussions. Let's get into some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and it's turning into something truly, truly special. And I would absolutely love to see you part of it. Thank you so much, and see you next time.